ever-changing world, Off Hollywood Media presents a voice of truth and inspiration, resonating a vibration of love and understanding, illuminating new paths for new directions, as we, as one, strive for higher and higher levels of consciousness, always remembering life changes. And now, your host, our MC, our master of change, Filippo Voltaggio.
Ciao, everyone. This is our Valentine's Day show. As a matter of fact, we're here in a beautiful home in Hollywood having a great little Valentine's party with some people who are in couples and some people who are not in couples and some people who don't want to be in couples. And it's all perfect. And it's interesting because that's what we're kind of going to be talking about today. How some people feel the need to be coupled when they really don't want to be, but because of peer pressure, they feel like they're supposed to be. We're going to talk about how some people don't know how to be in couples, and some people, well, we're going to talk about all kinds of things. And our guest is Siri Satnam, Dr. Siri Satnam, who is a licensed psychotherapist. And he's worked with so many people in this couple thing, dual thing, relationship thing, that so many of us don't seem to get right, and hopefully we will after tonight. Speaking of getting things right, I thought it was kind of interesting to see on the news in the past couple of days how in Egypt there are people still demanding rights. This time, it's the police. And they want their rights. As a matter of fact, they're chanting, "We want our rights." And it's interesting how these are the same people, the police that is, who were responsible for the violence against the demonstrators who were saying the exact same thing. We want our rights. We want to be represented. And the police were against them. And now the police are saying, we are one with the people. We are the people, and we want our rights too. And so off to the side in private, they're saying, well, we always agreed with the people. It's just that if we didn't do what we were told, we would have gone to jail. And I think that's really interesting and really sad, because without the police violating the people that were protesting the injustice of a government, then the government wouldn't have lasted as long as it did. I'm not going to say it's the police's fault. I'm not going to say there's any fault, really. Just think it's interesting that it's the same police who were violating the demonstrators now saying, we are one with them. And of course they are. They always were. Maybe they forgot. And I was thinking about our own police here in America and our army here in America, and how many times our army has been called in a loving way to do humanitarian things around the world, to do, projects, hundreds of projects in hundreds of countries. Our army has been there to provide water after earthquakes and food after famines, and to build homes after destructions, and all kinds of things that our wonderful army has done for the good around the world. And it has been appreciated so often around the world. And yet, this is the same army, the same people who will go and in one particular country on a given day, hold the children in their hand, feed them, help them, and in another particular country, on another given day, these same people, maybe accidentally, might be killing children, might be bombing cities. I wonder if that army, our army, ever wonders whose side they're on. ever wonders if they're going to be called someday, if a certain government or a certain philosophy should fall, and will they be saying, well, if we didn't do it, we would have gone to jail? And if they'll be saying it was wrong for us to do it? It's an interesting question. And it's Valentine's Day, and so many people are wishing each other love today. And that's a beautiful thing, actually. I got wished Happy Valentine's Day by so many people that I wouldn't have expected, like ex-girlfriends and ex-employers and my brothers, and so many wonderful people wished me a Happy Valentine's Day. And I want to take that love that everybody wished me, and so much of the love that we have here, and build upon it, and send it to the people in Egypt, and the people that are fighting for their rights around the world, and also send it to our army, our men and women, our boys and girls, who are called to do humanitarian efforts throughout the world, but are sometimes called to do something that maybe someday, because of the love that we send them, because of the love that we're putting out in the world, maybe they won't have to do anymore. And they won't have to justify why they did what they did. So, that's my Valentine's Day message. And with that, we're going to get back to the show with our guest right after this. I feel like those old television shows where they used to read the commercials right on the show. I am going to be reading a commercial letting you know that clean water is not enough. Reverse osmosis, distilled water, and most bottled waters are devoid of naturally occurring minerals. They are acidic and hard to absorb and rob minerals from the body. Ionways ionizers produce a superabundant supply of powerful antioxidants in each class. Ionized water has a reduced molecular structure and a negative charge, hydrating you up to 6 times better. Water from an Ionways ionizer will help you restore your body to its natural pH balance, boosting your vitality. And ionized water more effectively flushes acidic toxins from your body. Drink the healthiest water available today. Ionways Water Systems. Their water changes everything. To learn more about Ionways Water Systems and how you can own your own today, visit our website at lifechangeswithfilippo.com and click on our sponsor page. Our MC and co-host Mark Lejeune is not with us today because he's spending his Valentine's with his wife, and so we wish him a beautiful evening. But he is not here to read our commercials, so I am having to read my own. So that life changes, and we go along with it. So after that, back to you, Filippo. Thank you, Filippo. And now I am so pleased to introduce a man that unfortunately I have not known for very long, but I have a feeling I will know for a very, very long time. He is Dr. Siri Satnam, who is a licensed psychotherapist. People have said about him, "Thank you, you've saved my marriage." Others have said, "I have been to 27 different therapists, and you were the only one, to get me out of the root of my problem." Another said, "Thank you for all the help you've given me towards following my heart." Another said, "Thanks, Siri, I could not have gone through this alone." And one other that I love is, "Your talent is as real as the sun, the moon, and the stars." And so are you, my friend.
Well, thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You are quite a gentleman. You have quite a story that has gotten you here. And it's interesting that I've thought long about people that I've respected, and I thought, how do people get to be like that? And when I hear your story, little by little, more and more, I realize that's how people get to be like this. And it wasn't easy. But you like who you are?
Yes, appreciating me more and more every day. What else do I have?
Well, that's a good question. And what do you mean by that?
Well, all of life is about you, your own consciousness. So every day, the first thing I do in the morning is I get up in the morning, I meditate. It's not even a question. That is not the first thing that I do. So I'm always working on my consciousness, always trying to improve myself. And sometimes it's a little painful, though, because it seems like the more conscious I become, the more unconscious the world seems.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about a time when you were less conscious. I don't want to say that about you, but I mean, you've said that yourself. I mean, you knew you were less conscious,
well, I'm not
right?
a perfected being. I'm still working on myself. Human means, that you always work on yourself, that you're always going to be a little better.
But you tell this amazing story, especially, I think it was the 70s, how things around you just all of a sudden changed and kind of shook you up and said, get it. Right?
Yes.
And I'm sure it started way, way, way back before then. But can we start about that time in the car? I don't know how much you want to say on radio, but
story.
I love that story. Let me say this. I love it now. But had I lived it and had I known you at the time and to think back that this was happening to you, I wouldn't have wanted this on my worst enemy.
Yes.
Much less my friend. So I can laugh now, and somehow you can too. So, tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I've had many periods in my life where I was lost, very, very lost. Didn't know what my next move would be, and I was 24 at the time, and I was teaching public school, and I was also getting into my dance career. And so I had gone to the theater with this good friend of mine to see Mass at the Music Center. And he was actually in it. And so we left the theater. And, this was in the 70s. And so we were rejoicing. And we were smoking a joint in the car.
Rejoicing, that's what you call it?
Rejoicing. And so anyway, we were laughing and talking. The next thing I knew, I said, oh, my God, George, the police lights are on us. So anyway, so we put the joint out, and so then the police stopped us, and of course in these days it's a felony.
To be smoking?
Marijuana is a felony. A joint, anything related to marijuana. So anyway, so when the police stopped us, I rolled the window down, and all of this marijuana smoke went out the window.
Jeez.
And so he says, get out of the car, get out of the car. So we get out of the car, and anyway.
And this is the 70s.
This is the 70s.
And so it's not only the joint that's the thing, but let me the police were probably white, right?
Well, yes, and I'm African American.
Right, and your friend was?
African American.
Okay, jeez.
So anyway, so then we get out of the car, and then so he searches the car. There's no marijuana in the car, so he can't do anything. So he's very disappointed. So anyway, then he searches my friend. And my friend had gotten a gift from the theater, and he opened up the box, and inside was a joint.
Oh,
he didn't
I forgot about this part. Ugh.
There was a joint. So anyway, my friend they handcuffed him, and they were taking him down to the police station. So I said, I want to go with my friend. I meant I wanted to ride in my own car and follow my friend to find out where he was. I didn't mean handcuff me. So anyway.
But they did?
They handcuffed me and took me down. So now this means I have a charge against me. Now, no, I'm teaching public school at the time. The case gets dismissed I had a brilliant lawyer who made them, came up with that he could not verify that the smell was marijuana. There was some other kind of herb that had a smell similar to it, and so the case was dismissed. But anyway, but meanwhile, back at the ranch, I got dismissed from teaching public school.
Yeah, wow.
And because I got dismissed from teaching public school, I couldn't pay for my new 1975 Camaro that I was driving, which meant it got repossessed. Then I had a motorbike, and it was chained to a tree outside my apartment. I went to go get my motorbike. I'm sort of speeding up the whole story.
I'm sure.
Anyway, the motorbike had been stolen, and I had about $5,000 or $6,000 in the bank. And I went to the bank, and I was walking home from the bank, and in that short 4 blocks, I was pigeon dropped for my $5,000 or $6,000.
Now, pigeon drop must be a 70 term because I get the meaning, but what is
There's this
You're dating yourself now.
No, yeah, well, what can we say? Anyway, so
pigeon drop.
A
pigeon came and dropped something. I mean,
so there was this guy with an African accent coming and saying he had all these problems and he wanted to get in my car. I said, oh, no. So anyway, I was walking anyway, so he was really just very aggressive and he gave me the story and the whole thing.
And he mugged you.
No, he didn't mug me. What happened, some kind of, he gets you so flustered. You know, I'm trying to get him out of my energy field, and he gets me so flustered. Some kind of way, he tricks me to put my money in a bag, and you think you have the bag, and when you get a block down the street, you say, wait, what just happened? And you realize that you put your money in another bag, and he's gone with your $5,000.
He saw you
and
coming.
Here you are with a bag with nothing but newspaper.
Wow.
So
now, you know, that has nothing to do with the marijuana.
Mm-mm.
And it has nothing to do with the person that stole your motorbike.
Mm-mm.
So all this stuff happening at one time, that's got to mean something.
Well, it sort of compounded to where when I got home, I went to go inside of my apartment, which had all my trinkets and gadgets and all this material stuff, and they had put a chain on the door. So I couldn't even get inside my own apartment. So with all of this gone at that particular time, life for me was materialism. I had no spiritual connection whatsoever. I wasn't going to church or anything. And so when all of this was taken away from me, I went, why am I not dead if that was life? And then I became aware of the fact that I was breathing. And when I became aware of the fact that I was breathing, I consciously out loud said, I want to do yoga.
So you became aware of the fact that you were breathing. In other words, I am still me without my stuff. The stuff is not me.
Exactly.
So you can take my stuff away from me, but you...
And I'm still alive.
And I'm still alive.
I didn't even have a dime phones at that time. You could call on the dime. The telephone, they were still lit on the street. They don't have phones on the street
I never
anymore.
heard of that. Really? Out on the street? You
could go to a telephone booth and put a dime in and call. I didn't even have a dime to call my parents. So I had to walk from Los Angeles, Vermont, and Pico all the way to Carson.
Now that's a long way for those of us who live in Los Angeles.
A long way. Wow. So, and anyway, so by that particular time, you couldn't look in the phone book and find a yoga teacher or yoga class. It wasn't as prominent and prevalent as it is now. So I went through a whole journey of trying to find a yoga teacher and a yoga class. And so what happened, I was dancing, and so there's this teacher called me up. He says, oh, I want you to take over this class for me. And I said, sure. So they were paying me by the class and not by the number of students in the class. So I went to go teach the class, and when I got to the class, there was just one student in the class. So because I was being paid anyway, so I just taught the class as if 400 people were there. And at the end of the class, I came back the next week, and she was the only student again.
Okay.
So I said, I'm not going to continue the class, but, you know, she was there, and so I felt it my obligation to really have some time with her at least. So I asked her, would she like to go have some tea? So we went to go have some tea. And at the end of we had this lovely conversation. And at the end of the conversation, she gave me this book on the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And it was all of these spiritual teachings. And I was like, oh my God, this is the real stuff. At that time, I had my BA from Carleton College. I was like, why didn't I learn about this in college? This is the real stuff. This is about life. This is about progressing in life. This is about getting your life together. And so I read this book religiously every day. It was like a 300, 400-page book. And I got to the last chapter, and it said, you can intellectualize this, but you must have a teacher to experience it. So I left my apartment. Actually, I was living with my parents at the time. Left their home with my dance bag on my shoulder. And before I left the house, I said, I want a teacher, out loud. And I was rehearsing in the studio on La Cienega. And I was in there, and I was dancing and doing I was a show with Eartha Kitt at the time. And that was a privilege. And when
For her, I'm sure, too.
Actually, I was a partner. I had fun. She was a very, very powerful woman.
Can we see video of this? Later.
I don't think we have one of that one. But I have one.
They didn't have videos back then
either?
They had
But I
payphones
do
in
have
the
a
street.
picture of the program to let you know it's the real deal.
I believe you.
My name on it, you know. So anyway, so then I was there dancing in this show, this rehearsal, and in walked this lady, this black lady in a white turban and all white dress, and I literally knocked my partner off point. She fell when she walked through the door. I was just like, because I knew why she had come. Because I had said that day, I want a teacher. She came the same day. And I went up to her and I said, do you teach yoga? And she said, yes. I said, could I take yoga from you? She said, yes. And that's the story. That was in 1974. And I've had only 5 days in my life since then that I have not done yoga.
Wow.
I was too sick to get up those mornings. Otherwise, every morning since 1974,
wow,
I start my day. I used to get up every morning at 3:15 and be in meditation by a quarter to 4.
Actually, that's a whole nother story. And I like that one, too. So do tell about that. You used to get up every morning, and you called this a certain period of your life. What do you call it?
This is sadhana. This is practicing, you mean?
Yeah, no, I think it was like the boggles and beads.
Oh, well, I was a Sikh.
You were a Sikh. Okay.
And that's why my name is Siri Satnam Singh. Khalsa. It used to be Khalsa. I got rid of the Khalsa. The IRS knows me just Siri Satnam Singh.
Oh, okay.
Khalsa is not there. So, but anyway, I was a Sikh for 20 years, wearing a turban, up every morning at 3:45. No meat, no liquor, no drugs, no sex out of relationship. I was married for 7 years. Anyway, but I was very righteous, very disciplined. And then I had a healing crisis. And I went to this Life Expo. They just had one, I think.
This weekend?
And so I went to this Life Expo, and so they had the Kirlian Photography. And so I thought I'd go take my picture. You know, they take the picture of your aura, your magnetic field. I was very, excited about seeing, the size of my aura without me doing all this spiritual religious work, every morning. So he took a picture of my aura, and he came out and he says, sir, are you okay? I says, what do you mean, am I okay? He says, there's no light around you. I said, I must have broken the camera or something.
Your light is so bright.
My light is so bright. I've been doing so much religious work. It can't even, take the picture of my aura. So I didn't pay it any attention. I went on. And then I went home, and then that morning I woke up and I had a case of Bell's palsy.
Now, Bell's palsy is?
My face had collapsed.
Wow.
I looked like a monster.
Wow.
Yeah, one side of my face had just collapsed. And then, I only had the only doctor I had at that particular time was a chiropractor. And I said, Dr. Khalsa, what's wrong with my face? He says, oh, you have a case of Bell's palsy. I said, what is that? What is that? He says, oh, it's a nerve problem. I said, is my face going to come back? And meanwhile, I'm looking like Bela Lugosi. My mouth is all twisted. My eye is drooping. My face is hanging. I mean, one part of me is all elevated. Another part is, the drama mask. I look just like that.
Wow.
And so, anyway, so then I was just furious at God. I just couldn't understand. Here I was doing all of this work according to the way I was supposed to do it. And here I was, no light around me, face looking like something out of a monster book, and it just made no sense. So I tuned in. And
you were healing other people at the time.
Healing other people. I was actually one of the first in the city to make a living teaching yoga. Literally. Some of the people that are very, very, very popular now teaching yoga, I didn't get grandfathered in. The master actually appointed me to certificate people to teach yoga in the 80s, the first one in Kundalini yoga. And so, anyway, so during that time, I was healing all of these people, and they were coming to me with diseases I didn't know anything about, but I would be able to ameliorate their situation. So the voice came to me, it said, "You're such a healer. Heal your own goddamn self." Oh. That was
the nerve.
Quote. I again was furious, and then so I had to I actually became the wounded healer. And so this gave me the opportunity to see if the work that I do on others actually works. So I had to interpret my symptom, and when I did, I realized that God had slapped my face to get me to look at myself. And when I did, I realized that I was not authentic. I was not being authentic at all. I was an African-American man. I wasn't hanging out with African-American people. I had this turban on my head looking like an Indian. Well, that's fine. I'm not going against anybody who's doing that. But I was an artist. I was a dancer. I wasn't hanging out with artists and dancers. I have this flair for fashion. I was just wearing white all the time. I was not being who I was. But I was very respectful of my master. And he was a true master, Yogi Bhajan. And I wrote him a letter. I said, "Sir, I am very respectful of you, but this garb is distancing me from the people. And I must take it off." And he said, "Satnam Singh, you continue to serve the people, but you will always be a Sikh." So I took the turban off and everything, and I started doing. I also realized I was very angry. Bell's palsy is a disease of anger. So being a holy man, you're like, you can't get angry, you can't get upset. It's, "Oh, you step on my foot, that's okay, people,
So you were holding it in.
I was holding it in,
and
it was too much, and it was an overload.
Wow.
So I started getting angry. Acknowledging my anger. I would let people have it if they disrespected me. And anyway, I did all of that work and got authentic, and my face came back, and went back and had my picture taken, the Kirlian Photography, and it was purple, the highest color. So.
Wow. And that's how one gets to be like you.
Well, what is that like?
It's obviously a very good thing, because a lot of people swear by what you've helped them do. And it's interesting that, healer, heal thyself, actually, that you've come full circle. And so being authentic now is helping you. But you were healing people before, but now it's different.
Now I'm a licensed therapist. I realized no one will probably ever say this, but yoga is limiting.
Wow.
And it works you can be spiritually very elevated and emotionally dead. You can be physically very adept, but mentally inept. I realized to really be whole, I had to work on my spiritual self, which yoga does. I had to work on my physical self, which yoga does. Yoga doesn't really work on your emotional self. And so consequently, I realized there was a deficiency, and I was incapable of healing wholeheartedly some of the people that came to me. And this also probably attributed to the fact of why I was spiritually elevated, but emotionally dead. I wasn't at one with my own heart. I wasn't at one with myself. So I realized that I had a BA in psychology, completely forgot. Completely forgot, because I went dancing for 15 years and didn't need a BA in psychology. And so I realized, well, what else can I do, besides teach yoga? And I realized, I have this BA in psychology. So I went back to school, got my master's in clinical psychology, did my 3,000 hours of internship, took that 4-hour written exam, the 30-minute oral, and passed both the first time. Thank you. And became licensed. And I think the statistic is less than 1% of licensed therapists in the state of California are African American.
Wow.
And I'm still disrespected. I can go to certain agencies and I'm still disrespected. Well, I feel like you never make it.
Who knows why you need to feel that? Maybe there's something else that needs to be healed there for the world as well. But it's interesting, for you to go back to that. Maybe you never would have been able to do it like you're doing it now, had you not maybe, definitely, without having gone through all that. But now you're helping people find wholeness in themselves and in their relationships. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment, right after this.
There are self-help seminars costing thousands of dollars guaranteeing miraculous transformations. There are compelling speakers and life-changing weekend experiences where you can walk on fire. They all deliver revelations that guarantee you'll come back for the more expensive revelations filled with even greater wonder next month on Fiji. We get addicted to positive, heartfelt, expensive theater. What we really need is a jumpstart, an awakening. Someone who can give us a reminder that everything we need lies within. Through inspiration and practical knowledge, Dorothy Donahue helps people get grounded and motivated, inspired and energized. It's not just words and affirmations and the power of intention. It's a mindset brought about by a tangible, transcendental experience, an audio-visual, physical, spiritual experience that helps us realize we transform ourselves. We get tools to become the conscious co-creators of lives of unlimited potential. Find out more. Go to DorothyDonahue.com.
I'd like to remind everybody that you're listening and watching Life Changes with Filippo. You can learn more about us at lifechangeswithfilippo.com. That's Filippo spelled Filippo. And we are here every Monday night on the BBS Radio Network at 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Pacific Daylight Time or Pacific Standard Time. You can learn more about us at the website, but you can also go to Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and connect with us there. Our guest tonight is Dr. Siri Satnam, who is a licensed psychotherapist. He helps people with their relationships, their marriages, and probably the most important relationship, the relationship with themselves. Why is a relationship with oneself so important before one has a relationship with somebody else? Or not before, but always.
Well, wherever you are, that's where the life is. If you're in a victim consciousness, that's the way. It's so interesting. What I have found is that it's almost individuals that we attract. It's like, Freud gave us this understanding. There's really the superconscious level. That's the realm of, say, spirituality. There's the conscious level that we, are this in psychotherapy that's all supposedly evidence-based. And on the conscious level of working, like, say, for instance, cognitive therapy is now the most respected in the field of, like, insurance because it's on the cognitive level. Supposedly we can test it. But then the unconscious is real. I'm unconscious of my unconscious. You're unconscious of your unconscious. The unconscious is real. And what I have found is that individuals will attract the absolute perfect individual that will help reflect their the work that they have to do on the unconscious level.
And so when you say perfect, you don't mean perfect in the sense like,
No.
oh, he's so good or she's so great.
For example, I can think of, for example, I could be a individual, a couple. I can think years ago when I worked, the lady had a horrible childhood experience, terrible childhood experience, so painful that she could not really feel the experience that she was going through in terms of her mother was on drugs, and so consequently she almost had to raise herself. She was mother would be gone out of the house for 3 weeks or so, and at a time. And so some of the things she went through was just extremely painful. So they came in as a couple, and the man was the problem. And I'm sitting there going, this man is so sensitive. He's such a feeling person. He's so kind. He's so loving, and just loves his mate just to the world's end. But yet he could do no wrong. No right. I'm sorry. He could do no right
in her eyes.
In her eyes, and so of course I had to engender the respect and trust with both of the individuals. And eventually, in some of the, if you have the skills to do that, it's not always suggested that you do that, but sometimes I will break the couple up. I got that from one of my licensed psychotherapist friends. It's actually strategic family therapy, which was big in the 50s. It's really very valid in that particular theoretical orientation. Right now, not so many, we don't do that so often.
Now, break up like...
Yeah, I will see them individually.
Oh, okay.
But still, in my head, I will be working with them as a couple and also letting them know. And I will only have the same amount of sessions with the lady that I will have with the man.
Okay.
So eventually what happened when we came to do the work is that this woman could not feel the feelings of what happened when her childhood of origin. So consequently, she attracts a man that's all feeling.
Oh.
So it's called split off part of self. So she would unconsciously project her feelings onto this mate who could collude with her. And she can hate him for it and push him away. And it's his problem when it's really her stuff.
Wow.
So the healing work was to get her to take her feelings back. And in sessions, we couldn't have sessions without her just being tearful, without just crying the whole session.
As the feelings were starting to come back.
As we were letting her process her family of origin, all these horrible things that happened to her.
Wow.
That she could not dare feel then. But a very capable woman, because that was survival mechanism at that particular time.
Right.
To be, say, 12 years old and not to have a guardian,
right.
Is very, very frightening and scary. So, and getting this woman to take back her feelings and to process and acknowledge them and identify them, the relationship is not working.
Wow.
Because now she has taken back her unconscious projections. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah.
Well, what about in the case where the partner is abusive?
The partner is abusive. Well, usually when the partner is abusive, you go back to the family of origin, usually one of the parent has been abusive, and that was modeled for them, and they unconsciously learned that. So it's like there's this particular theoretical orientation called object relations, to where you want to stay in relationship. The child wants to stay in relationship with the parent. So my father, let's say, is very abusive. Now, it's too painful for me to feel that my father is abusive and a bad person. So I will interject that my father is, the abuse, and I will unconsciously find a partner, and they will be an abuser.
So they can blame them.
Well, no, I just projected it. I unconsciously projected the same thing from my family of origin onto my mate. So then this mate will beat me just like my father did.
Wow.
So the unconscious is very real. And so you can't work through that by yourself. You can't. You have to have a very keen eye, and all therapists don't utilize that theoretical orientation. I have that understanding. That's the psychodynamic perspective. There are three different schools of in psychology. There's the humanistic school, which I primarily am, which means I sit as a human, not as an expert, not as a perfected being, as one who's in this whole existential situation and nobody's getting out of it alive, right? So I'm in it too. So it means I have empathy for your challenges. I've had failures, I've had successes, I have misgivings, I have blind spots. I understand whatever you're going to bring to me. I'm in it too. So I sit there as a human. So it's two humans talking. But I have empathy for you. So, and also if I'm really able to engender your trust, it's a safe place. So you feel there's no judgment there. Whatever you tell me is just fine. So I'm always validating the person. That's the humanistic school. The psychodynamic school, and the humanistic school sits in the now. Whatever's going on between the client and the individual is about the now. Okay. And that also tells me about the relationships outside. However you treat your therapist is how you treat the world.
Oh, wow.
Like there was one lady who was talking to me on the phone, and she was asking me all these questions, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And she actually decided not to work with me, right? Before she hung the phone up in my face. I said to her, so she was asking me all these questions. I said, well, I can sense that you're probably having problems with your mate as you're discrediting me. I'm sure you discredit him.
Wow.
She hung that phone up so quick, I got dizzy. She must have really. So, because see, that's called process. See, there's content that's shallow. What you tell me, I fed a cow poison yesterday, and then I, ran around the block and I screamed. That's all content. But the depth of therapy is in the process. What's going on between the therapist and the client? And so that's where the therapist has to be very clear and conscious, too, of his or her own stuff, because we call that counter-transference. And I can be non-therapeutic if I'm not aware of my own stuff.
Interesting.
Like, for example, say, for instance, sometimes in clients coming in, I'll be sitting there and I'll be very tearful. Okay. And I'll sit there and I go like, oh, God, what do I do with these tears? I go, oh, that's their stuff. So then I have to, I can sit there and cry more than them, which is the rule not to do. It's all right for a therapist to cry. Just don't cry more than your client. But
you're human.
Yeah. So it's like, and so that's there. It's like what's happening. The unconscious of the client is being ciphered through the therapist. Now, if I'm clear and conscious to know that this is your stuff and it doesn't it doesn't mix with mine. If it mixes with mine and I'm not aware of it, then that's called countertransference, and I will not be therapeutic. But if I'm aware that this is your stuff and I look at it neutrally, then I'm able to give it back to you in a way that would be therapeutic.
This is so complicated. No wonder people can't figure out relationships. It's interesting because I know friends that have gone to therapy for their relationships. Yes. And I don't see most of them any better than before because they probably working on I poisoned a cow today and I ran around the block. I mean, they're working on, don't poison cows anymore, as in maybe you should walk. Yeah, that's not the meat of it.
Yeah, well, your therapist is very important. That is a very intimate relationship. It's a one-way intimacy, but it's a very, very intimate relationship. So your therapist should be very wisely chosen. Someone that you feel safe with, someone that has the ability to really help you see the unseen that's going on within your own life and can give it to you in a way that you can receive it. I've learned that as a therapist, I have to be a master of the word. A master. I can say a word, choose the wrong word, and it can just traumatize you or upset you or reactivate you. So everything that I as a therapist do in that situation, even when I'm laughing or I'm diverting the client or whatever I'm saying, or I'm trying to be therapeutic. Everything I do in that session, the blink of the eye, to go out of the room, which I do very seldom, to go to the bathroom, very, very seldom. I know not to drink water anymore in sessions. But,
because it affects the client.
Well, if I go out of the room, I will, give them an assignment to do if that human situation comes about. But so it's a very intimate relationship. Wow. And, there are different therapists with different theoretical orientations and all, That's one reason that we're supposed to work on ourselves. A real healer, you can just look in their eyes. A real healer, you just have to be in their presence.
Well, I'm feeling good, so that says something.
Well, all right. It was so interesting. I had a client the other day talking about relationship. I mean, all of life is relationship. Relationship with yourself, relationship with others, relationship with God, relationship with food, relationship with sex, relationship with everything's a relationship, So we're always in relationship, And it was so interesting. A lady came the other day, and so she was very, 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 very frantic, very, 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 very anxious. And I said, so she's been to therapist after therapist after therapist after therapist. I like to think of myself as a therapist as a stop sign. Okay. Once you come to me, we're going to go get the head on the nail. So we work on the cellular memory. So you keep talking to me. Hopefully with we call it active listening, active reflective listening, that I will hear very acutely and be able to share with you what perhaps you are not even aware of. So she was talking and the whole thing, and I was like, I said, now this is not really the scope of our practice, but, I'm an old yogi, so homie knows what homie knows. She's very frantic, and she's been to a host of therapists, and no one has been able to heal her. And I said, with her anxiety, she's on Adderall and all this medication. And I said, well, tell me what you ate today. She said, well, yesterday I had a cup of coffee. I said, what'd you put in it? Oh, I put some sugar and this and that in. I said, okay. And then for lunch, I had a salad. And for dinner, I had some eggs. I said, okay. And she recounted the next day was sort of similar. I said, well, what I'm hearing is that you're not eating any earth foods. So consequently, you don't have the capacity to be grounded. I heard no potatoes, no carrots, no beets, no onions, no ginger, no garlic, no yams. Those are earth foods. And so the brain is all about the blood, the chemistry of the blood. So if her blood chemistry is not balanced and have earth elements in it, then she's going to be frantic and crazy. She came back the next week, incorporated those foods. She's completely different.
Wow. You didn't learn that in school.
I certainly did.
So you have incorporated all kinds of interesting things, and
I have 3 eyes.
You have 3 eyes. Okay. Well,
I use them.
When we come back, hopefully you can share with us in a few minutes some of the tricks we could use for relationships on this Valentine's Day.
Okay.
I want to remind everybody that we're talking to Dr. Siri Satnam, and you can learn more about him, of course, at our website at lifechangeswithfilippo.com. But you could also go directly to his website at sirisatnam.com. Siri is SIRISATNAM.com. Again, he's a licensed therapist. You can also read about him at his website, but he's written so many papers and for so many magazines. He, of course, is still practicing one-on-one and with groups, and with couples. So if you're interested, do contact him at his website. Life Changes with Filippo is our premier radio show presented by Life Changes, which is a company made up of people who have dedicated their lives not only to positive change, but to helping others look at their change and embrace them, honor them, and even celebrate them, and in so doing, live a more positive, inspired life and help create a more positive, inspired world. From everyday people to corporate giants, celebrities, and children, we are here to help and to serve. Through our many programs, we bring our messages out into your home, corporate offices, or your shows. We are here to help and would be honored if you would like private consultation with us, wish to engage one of us for your corporate event, or would like us to speak on your radio show or TV shows. For more information, visit our website at www.lifechangeswithfilippo.com and click on our representation page. And now back to you, Filippo. Thank you, Filippo. You're doing mighty well at that today, by the way. So we just have a few minutes, but you had some great suggestions at how two people, and it wasn't, actually I take that back, how a person can have relationship, whether it's with themselves, with a partner of the opposite sex or with a partner of the same sex or a friend, because everything is relationship. So what is one of the first things, besides eating potatoes, that we need to do? And speaking of potatoes, the food here is delicious. You had
Willetta's vegan cuisine.
Oh, man.
Oh, she's the best.
Yeah.
She's the best. I don't do any event without her.
Well, I am so amazed. People will have to contact you just to get her information, because the food is great and grounding and spiritual and all that.
And elevating and fun.
And elevating and fun and delicious. So what is maybe the first step to having true relationship?
True relationship. A lasting relationship? What about that?
Okay.
I think it's easy to get into relationships, but it's hard to keep them. So I think to be able to keep them, you have to be be able to forgive.
Forgive.
You have to have tolerance. You have to have patience. You have to love the idea of having a relationship more than your ego. You have to be in love more so with higher consciousness than I can't even say it, your neuroses. If you find a lover that's in love with the neuroses, you got a problem.
Wow.
If you got a person who doesn't want to change, you got a problem. If you have a person who doesn't want to communicate, you got a problem.
So basically what you're saying is there's no hope for relationships for humanity.
No, I'm saying you have to research your lover.
And by that
research your lover. Find out about their family history. What kind of relationship did they have with their mother and their father? What kind of history do they have with relationships? Research your lover so you know what you're getting into, because love is a bottomless pit. Look before you fall. So, did you know anything about St. Valentine? No.
He was in jail, that's what I know.
Yeah, he was in prison. So if we get into that story, it tells us a lot about love. You know, we really are celebrating his death. He was executed on this particular day, February 14th. But anyway, so relationships, yes, it's about endurance. I found that that's really what is key to success in life, period. Can you endure? Oh, we see on television all the time where the stars get married and divorced in a year.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the ability to endure.
No, you threw me off with the thing that he was executed today.
I'm
what
sorry.
Are you trying? Okay,
no, I was going to get into the whole story.
What are we celebrating exactly?
I was just saying but he fell in love with the jailer's daughter.
Right.
And he sent her a card, and it said, "From your Valentine."
Aww.
So this is one way. There's many ways of showing love. Gifts are one way. So we look into that story.
Okay.
He gave her a gift. How are some of the ways you can show love? By time, giving another person time. That shows your love. By giving compliments, that shows your love. By giving them affection and touching them, that shows their love. But love is a state of being. Can you just be with that person? For how long can you be with that person? How long can you just accept, just understand, stand under that person to where you're in peace and joy and can be neutral to them in their growth process?
We needed 4 hours for this show because, you're talking about something so important. Talk about being with that person. A lot of people can't even be with themselves for very long. They have to turn on the TV because they have to, get out of their head.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's where, and we go back to where we started. You have to work on yourself.
You have to just work, but spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally, then you'll be whole. Most people don't work on themselves, especially men. We have this split off thing that men cannot be into their emotional self. Well, in a relationship, there are 4 people. There's the man, there's the woman inside the man, there's the man inside the woman.
Wow.
Oh, wow, yeah. So thus, consequently, in a relationship, whether it's a gay relationship, straight relationship, there has to be that balance. Man is inflexible. Man is like the sun. Man is the sun. That means he's always supposed to shine light on that feminine principle.
Okay.
Because feminine principle is not like the sun. Men do not understand the nature of women, and women do not understand the nature of men. Women, the way they talk, want to be married to a woman. The way men talk, they want to be married to a man. A woman is not going to be constant.
Okay.
And men have a little trouble sometimes with the inconstancy of woman. Has cycles. She's cyclical. She has ups and she has downs. I don't care how pretty, how intelligent, how rich, how famous. She's going to have ups and downs.
Do you tell women this?
I have never said to a woman is lunar, right?
Okay.
There is not one woman in my 20-year career that I have said, well, you're lunar, and sometimes that means you have periods of lunacy. I have never had a woman call me misogynist.
Oh.
They look at me like, well, he certainly understands who we are. Because woman gets periods of darkness. She's lunar. She revolves around the moon. What's the positive aspect? She's creative. She's romantic. She's nurturing. But the down period. And when a woman is on her cycle, it's so interesting. I can tell when my clients come in, when I was married, I always would say, oh, we're on our period. I always knew before my wife knew. During that period where the women cannot really control that the hormonal imbalance is really out of control.
Right.
And so I find the unresolved part of themselves comes out during that period. And it's always 5 days before or 5 days after. It's not while the woman's on her period or her cycle. So a man has to know 5 days before her cycle, we are on our period. Or 5 days after her cycle, we are on our period.
And what's the man supposed to do? Get out of
Be
town?
the sun.
Be
Constantly
the sun.
shine light. He has to be steady if the relationship's going to work. If he becomes reactive, it's over. It's over. It's done. Because woman is cyclical. She has periods. She has moments. She's emotional. She's going to have periods. So if he gets emotional and reacts to her, it's over. It's done.
Wow.
So when someone is, when she's in feminine principle, he has to be male principle. He's not always male principle. Sometimes he has emotional periods. I call that it's like, man is sperm, right? And sometimes men are just all over the place.
Okay.
So when when he's in that craziness, she has to be steady. Okay. She has to be to that direction, focus, steady, shining light on his dark side, the inability to be steady and solid and focused and stable. So if you just look at that sun and moon concept, your relationship can work. So that means there's a solar eclipse sometimes, which means that what's the solar eclipse? Where the sun, the earth is between, the moon is between the sun and the earth.
Right.
So that means the woman is blocking the man from his work.
Aha.
Which is a problem. There's the lunar eclipse. What's the lunar eclipse? What's that one?
I don't know.
I'm
so confused. There are 4 people in a relationship, and there are cycles, and there's ups and downs. I'm thinking, I was hoping at the end of this, it's like, oh, I could go out and have a relationship right now.
It's work.
And you know what? I think I can, though, because if we embrace the work, and if we embrace that we have to figure ourselves out and allow ourselves to have our periods and to have our time and to look at our stuff. And now it sounds even more to me that a relationship is part of our journey, and that it's supposed to help us become whole in one, kind of like the journey that you described.
Well, you have to understand that whoever you're in a relationship with is God. So you're really in a relationship with God.
The ultimate relationship. You had to bring it there.
If you could just see that person as God, then that will give you the neutrality, maybe the strength, the endurance to keep relating to them in a very accepting manner.
Siri Satnam, thank you so much for the wisdom that you shared today, for the laughter and the pain and helping us understand or not understand, but understanding that there's more to relationship than just, here's some flowers, happy Valentine's Day.
Oh.
But in the meantime, it is a happy Valentine's Day for us here. I want to thank all of you here today and all of you listening and watching. I am Filippo Voltaggio, and along with our producers, Dorothy Lee Donahue, Mark Lejour, and Mark Greger, and our engineer, Seth Hendricks. We thank you for being part of this world, part of the show, part of the change we all wish to see in the world. Happy Valentine's, everybody. Ciao.
You have been listening to Life Changes. Join us here every Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and visit us on the web at lifechangeswithfilippo.com. That's Filippo, Filippo. And follow our community on Facebook at Life Changes with Filippo. Join us here next week as we consciously embrace and explore the only constant, life changes.